Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to bring a cartoon character to life. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Tow Mater from Cars. This is an RC body that was printed from a 3D printer. So you can already see that it has the characteristics of Tow Mater. This one was a real fun project to do, but it also came with its own challenges. As always, the first thing we got to do is prep it. I lightly scuffed it with some 800 grit sandpaper, and then primed it with a color that was close to the character's color. I wanted this paint job to look old and faded at the end. Normally I would actually do it where it was actually nice and shiny, but this is just the opposite. So get ready, we're going to break all the rules on this one. I start out by painting the lettering first. Now the lettering's already embossed into the body, so it really made it a lot easier on this project. The paint that I'm using is a water-based acrylic called Wicked Color, and it's made by Createx. It's made to spray directly out of the bottle, so you really don't have to thin it down. The air compressor is actually down to about 10 pounds of pressure, so there's not really a lot of paint coming out of the airbrush. There is a really nice air filtration system just to the right of where I'm sitting, so any fumes that are in the air, that pulls it directly right out of the air. It normally takes about 2 or 3 coats to actually cover something like this, so I'm taking my time on putting the paint on, making sure it dries between each coat. Once the lettering is done, then it's time to start putting on the first layer of paint. Since it's a water-based paint, I put it on in real light coats. From time to time, you'll also see me use a hairdryer to dry in between each coat. You want to use a hairdryer and not a heat gun. A heat gun will just damage the body of the RC car. I used a lot of masking tape during this process to protect overspray from getting on the paint on the areas that I already have painted. I also used tape to create a hard edge on the door. In doing so, once I finish with this project, you'll clearly see where the door is. You'll notice that I'm not really spraying the entire door solid green, and that's because if you look at the picture down below, it shows there's also rust kind of filling in different areas of the door. But you'll notice that the parts that I do paint a solid green are completely solid. And then once I finish with the green, I'll bring a lighter shade of brown in over the top of that and fade over the top of the green, giving it more of a rust look. At 10 pounds of pressure, you can also use the green to cover up any bad edges on the lettering. With the door about 90% done, I went ahead and covered it up with tape. Now, in order to do that, I had to make sure it was completely dry, so use that hairdryer and make sure it's completely dry to the touch and actually leave it sit for about 15-20 minutes after that, just to be sure. I've got certain areas masked off to form a hard line with blue, and you'll notice I've got tape around the wheel wells also. Even though I'm going to paint the rim around the wheel well blue also, I still want a hard line between the fender and that rim, the edge of that wheel well. I'm making sure that I get the A pillar and the B pillar and also across the top of the door, and then later on I'll come back in with the brown and make it look like a little bit of rust up there too. Like I said in the beginning, I'm breaking all the rules on this one. You'll notice on the front fender, again, it's not sprayed completely solid blue. It makes it easier to bring the brown in for the rust, and you're not wasting as much paint that way. Now we're switching over to the brown. You can see the brown starting to cover up parts of some of the edges of the blue, and I'm actually just fading it in. You'll notice that I'm bringing some of the more detailed rust into the picture now, and I'm doing that by using dagger strokes. Dagger strokes are actually made by just the flip of your wrist. If I actually pulled the camera out just a little bit, you would actually be able to see that my elbows are right up against my side, and that helps me stabilize the airbrush a lot easier. It's best to always have a reference picture close by so you can compare it to what you're actually doing. You'll notice in the truck picture down below, I'm actually trying to match as close as I can to where the rest actually comes into the picture. Making sure that I get around all the little edges of the door, including the rocker panel down below. Now I'm focusing on the truck bed itself. Again, I'm keeping that hard line up against the tape to make sure it helps form the door. And you'll notice I'm spraying paint on top of that tape. The reason is, at 10 pounds of pressure, every once in a while the gun will want to clog up. And just by spraying on top of that tape will help clear it out. It's important for me to note that I am using the hairdryer between coats, and it's really important because you want to make sure that that blue is completely dry before you start putting the brown on. What I'm doing now is I'm actually putting the gas port on the side of the truck. Now, this is not something that the customer is actually expecting, but people that know me know that I'm all about detail. You'll also notice that the door is now uncovered, so you can see how it's starting to come together now. I want the gas port to look like it goes back into the body. So this is just a little trick that I learned a long time ago. I'm going to cut the black box in half, and also take some tape and do a 45-degree angle on the right and a 45-degree angle on the left, and spray a little bit of brown in there, and that'll give it the impression that it'll give the person an impression that it's actually back into the body of the truck. Sometimes it takes longer to mask off the area than it actually does to spray it, but that's what sets you apart from some of the other airbrush artists out there. The more detailed you can make this, the happier the customer's going to be. And then once this part is done, I'll actually come back in later and hand paint a gas cap in there. Now you can get a better view of the entire side. It's starting to come together now. I don't have a whole lot more to go. It's still a little bit more detail. I actually used a circle template and made a side light on the back corner there. Again, the more detailed you can make this, the happier the customer's going to be. On this template, I actually took a piece of tape and I cut that circle in half. That way I'm going to spray a little bit of black in there, and it'll give the indication that that side light has a darker shadow underneath it. And I'm going to hand paint the rest of the detail in by hand. And a little bit more detail around the gas port, because if you don't, then it's going to look like it's out of place. Once I'm completely finished with this, I'll actually clear coat it with some matte finish clear. At 10 pounds of pressure, I'm able to actually put something in as small as a door handle. Now, part of it's going to be hand painted with a little tiny paintbrush, but the main part of the door handle can be put in with the airbrush. That's going to be about it, and now for the finished product. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.